one topic that really needs some time and attention is how to manage your investment expectations. And I really want to get into how does your budget impact your investment expectations and decisions. Well, your budget is going to dictate how much you can invest and how quickly you can reach your goals. So if you are always over budget, like our federal government, you will drain your savings and continue to have to dip into your retirement savings if you even have any. You will also interrupt the compounding process and even potentially force yourself into locking in losses or incurring tax penalties to get to money that you had put away for the long term. Well, there are some practical budget tips that you can use to find dollars to invest. I mean, there's some great programs out there that really help you build good budgets. That's not really the focus of our ministry. It's kind of one of the things that you already have to have conquered before you get to where you are considered to be an investor. But some practical tips are to start where you are. You can use a budget tool on your banking site. For example, my credit union has a tool right there on the front page that people can use, and they'll actually take your transactions and give you suggestions for categories, and you can check to see if they're right, and then it'll give you kind of an output on where you're spending your money and how much money you're spending. If you don't have access to that or some kind of free tool, you could always just export your banking transactions for, let's say, 3 to 4 months onto a spreadsheet, and then you can take out anything that's extraordinary. So like if you got a tax refund or you had to pay taxes, if you had any unexpected and any out of the ordinary, either inflows or outflows, you want to kind of take those out and then see what your average spending is. So for most people, it's very eye-opening to see what you're actually spending money on. I think it's a bad idea to sit down and start writing out what you think that you spend money on. I mean, it's you'll be accurate when it comes to your car note and your house note and your insurance and those kind of things, but it's really the discretionary spending that I think creeps up on people. So you want to be running a budget that's spending about 85% of what you're bringing in. So 15% is a good target for savings and investing because you want to set aside some money for the short term and for the long term. So this is also a very important part of retirement planning, is to know what kind of budget you're running, because you have to know what you're spending before you can find out if your income and the assets that you've accumulated to generate income in retirement are actually going to cover your expenses in retirement. So once you know how much you're spending, then you can estimate either how much longer you need to work and save to accumulate investments that will provide that income, that will replace that income later, or how long your money will last. You also want to take a very long-term approach to investing. Time is your greatest advantage when it comes to investing. Sorry to burst your bubble. It's not market timing. It's not buying low and selling high, because there's not very many people that can do that successfully at all. So it's time in the market typically that makes a person more successful than trying to time the market. When you set your mind to the long term, you're not bothered by temporary fluctuations in value, the day-to-day bumps in the road or spikes in the road. And it takes a while to actually realize a miracle of what we call compounding. You know, compounding has been called the eighth wonder of the world. So compounding is whenever you earn money on top of the money that you invested and the earnings that you've invested. So it works like this. Exponential growth works like this. Let's say you have 10,000. If you double that, it goes to 20,000. If you double that, it goes to 40, then to 80, to 160, to 420, and then to 840. So it has to double 6 times to grow $10,000 to $840,000. Now, we've got a couple of graphics to show up there on the screen. The first one is to show you the rule of 72. You'll hear us mention that several times. So risk and return are very positively correlated, and what that means is that you have to take risk in order to get return, and you have to take greater risk to get greater return. So the rule of 72, as you can see there, is you take 72, you divide it by your interest rate or your growth rate, and that tells you how many years it takes for your money to double. So in the example above, where we went from 10,000 to 840,000, and it took 6 times doubling for your money to get from 10 to 840,000. It would, if you were earning 12% on average, it would take you 36 years to do that. Now, it's not a straight path up, so you can't really say, oh, well, in half the time, I'll be halfway there. It doesn't work like that. It's not until the 30th year in this example that you're even halfway there, and then in the final 6 years, that's when you double to that other point. So here's a little brain teaser for you, I guess, and we'll put the graphic up there on the screen if you're watching too. So who do you think will earn more money? Investor number one, who starts at age 25 and sets aside $5,000 a year for 10 years in a row and then doesn't put any more in after that. So an investment of $50,000. Or investor two, who waits 10 years and starts at age 35, which is still young, and puts $5,000 each year into the market for 30 years in a row until reaching 65. So for 30 years, they're putting in $5,000 each. So they're putting in 3 times what the first investor put in. Well, you probably wouldn't be surprised to find out that it is the first investor, the one that only invested $50,000 over a 10-year period, but had so much more time to let it grow. You can see the results there. Investor number one, on their $50,000 investment at age 65, ended up with $787,000. Investor two, who put in $150,000 of their own money, but less time, ended up with $611,000. So, I hope that helps you kind of get your mind right, get prepared to have a long-term strategy, and just to be disciplined, and to run a good budget. Run a budget that operates in the green and actually below what you're bringing in. So you want to have a 15% surplus so that you can have some extra to invest.